What's up, everybody? Jordan here. If you know me through Twitch, you probably know me as I'm Your Man, and today we're going to talk about multi-boxing. So the biggest news of the week, besides the Shadowland launch date, is that Blizzard finally came down and cracked down hard on multi-boxers, effectively rendering it a obsolete way of making gold for people now. We're going to talk a lot about multi-boxing, use that term in this video today. And just to clarify terms of what I mean when I say multi-boxing, what Blizzard did to multi-boxing, I figured I'd tell you, in case you didn't know. Multi-boxing is where one human player, so like me, not me, but figurative me, has multiple accounts, sometimes up to 10 and 20 accounts, and uses them all to farm gold at the same time. So typically it's done with a druid, where I have a druid on 20 accounts, and at the same time, I move my druids around and farm and either pick herbs or kill mobs that are lucrative or mine or whatever. Multi-boxers do this by using a piece of software that controls all of the characters with one click. So rather than me having to tab through all of my accounts to do all of the actions that I want to do, I just hit one button on my keyboard or my mouse, and the software makes it so that all of my accounts and all of my characters do this one action at the exact same time. So one click controls multiple characters. Then these accounts survive off of WoW tokens, where because they generate so much gold, they have so much profit that the user isn't actually spending $15 a month times 10 to 20 accounts. They're buying WoW tokens with it, and that's how they're going to sustain their accounts. So Blizzard came down hard on this process. They didn't ban the ability to have multiple accounts. After all, Blizzard wants the value of people paying for 15 different accounts whatever way they can get their income, right? Either whether it's from WoW tokens or from swiping another credit card. But they came down and banned the use of the software that we were just discussing, where it's one click, one action. And this changes the game dramatically for the multi-boxer, because now if they want to do multi-boxing, they actually have to alt-tab each different window and do the action manually. And that's a big deal. It's a big time loss. And ultimately, it will be the death knell of the large majority of problems that people experience when they run into multi-boxers. This change is heralded by like many common people like myself and like other Redditors as a win for the common man. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of this. There was some great discussion on Twitter about what this means for the WoW economy as a whole. Is there good in this? Is there bad in this? And like with most things, yes, there is a gray area as well. Full disclosure, I'm not a multi-boxer. I ultimately come down and think this is a good decision, but I do see the pros of multi-boxing as well. And ultimately, my position is that I'm looking forward to seeing how it shakes out for Shadowlands. But with that, let's jump into the pros and the cons of this and see if you can sort it out for yourself as well. So one of the biggest benefits of this ban and cutting in a large portion of the multi-boxing community is that multi-boxing is honestly just, it's insufferable to do. If you've ever been in a zone and seen like 15 boomkin stacks on top of each other, just kind of running around the zone, moonfire and everything, it's impossible. The person can't level in a zone with a multi-boxer. You can't herb, you can't mine, you can't maybe farm mobs that drop lucrative trash that you can sell or drop transmog. Sometimes druids will take up an entire section of a map just spamming their AoE abilities, making it impossible for other players to use the zone. This leads to a really unfun experience that the other players that aren't multi-boxing can have. And that ultimately is a big reason of why Blizzard came down hard on this one-click, one-input community. The other reason is economic. It ruins the value of herbs and minerals in the auction house. And this is kind of a double-edged sword. We'll talk about that in a little bit later with the cons to banning the multi-boxers. But with herbs and minerals price being decreased so much because of these multi-boxers, it ruins the value of individual players' farm. In case you're confused on the how specifically this lowers the farm, it's a simple supply-demand effect. The supply necessarily increases by having one player do 10 players worth of work, right? So supply is going up, demand is staying the same, and so that necessarily will cause prices to fall. The value of my hour on the farm goes way down, but the value of the multi-boxers actually can exponentially increase with the amount of characters that they can control at once. So the casual player who only likes to spend an hour or so a week, maybe less than that, farming herbs just to pay for some repair bills, has a much harder time doing so in the multi-boxing universe. The final reason that I think it's just a good decision that they banned these multi-boxers is that, like, it just feels bad. This isn't like an analytical approach or there isn't a scientific reasoning behind this, but it just feels bad that one player can control 10 accounts with one button click. It doesn't feel like the shared burden is there. Like if I want to control 10 characters, I have to do 10 button clicks, right? And it doesn't feel fair that people can manipulate their characters in this way. I'm sure reasonable minds can disagree. I'm sure that there are reasonable minds that do disagree. But ultimately, from my perspective, it just doesn't feel fair. Now, all of that being said, and with my feelings about multi-boxing aside, there are some implicit negatives that will happen as a result of the multi-boxing community go away. Some of them will be the inverse of what we just talked about. So first, for example, is we talked about the decrease in value of herbs and minerals for the average player's farm. Well, this will actually also increase the average player's cost of minerals and herbs and potions and things like that on the auction house. So what we're going to have now is the supply is going to go down. With Shadowlands, the demand is actually going to go up and reach new heights. And herb and mineral prices will necessarily rise as a result of that. There's just going to be less herbs than there were a day ago, and the people are going to still need them at the same rate because nothing else in the game has changed to offset this. So these things will necessarily rise. Well, that's good in terms of those that farm. Like my hour spent farming will now be a bit more valuable than it was yesterday. Those that usually just buy a WoW token and ride out that 100,000, 150,000 gold will see that $20 investment go less far than it did 3 days ago, right? I often buy a WoW token every once in a while. I'm not a big gold maker, but sometimes you just have 20 bucks to throw at it, and it's nice to get 150K in the bank. That 150K will now go less far than it did yesterday. That is a necessary byproduct of the cost of things going up. And with WoW tokens, there are more uncertainties. As it stands, like tokens are a great way to legally buy gold and not deal with farming. As I talked about, I do it, even though I do gold farms. I have friends that do it. I have friends that are multi-boxers that live and die by the WoW token, right? Just like we've already talked about, supply and demand plays a big role in this conversation. The WoW token is not exempt from supply and demand, even though the supply is infinite. Multi-boxers pay for their accounts with these WoW tokens, right? Like I said, they live and die by them. If multi-boxers die off, the demand for this token is going to massively decrease. Imagine going from paying for 10 accounts to paying for one account. That's 9 per multi-boxer. Now, some of them will still multi-box with the alt-tab method, of course, but just for the sake of our discussion, most multi-boxers will stop multi-boxing. And with their supply remaining infinite, everybody can buy a WoW token whenever they want. The prices of the token could plummet in the future. Now, there is uncertainty in this because there are a bunch of factors that influence the cost of the WoW token, but it is something to consider for the more casual player that likes to buy gold and not be bothered with it, is watch the price of the WoW token. Maybe your $20 investment doesn't go as far, and you'd be better off just spending the time farming than it would be to drop $20 into the Blizzard machine. As a quick corollary to herbs and minerals, I wanted to mention this because I forgot. We will also see an increase in flasks, crafted gear, things that require minerals as well on the auction house. It's a necessary byproduct that if you need A and B to make C, and the cost of A and B goes up, the cost of C is going to go up as well. So we are going to see potion, flask, other consumables costs go up as well as a result of the multi-boxing change. Not necessarily the worst case scenario in the world. It might be worth in the end in terms of the player quality of life experience, but that is a thing to consider as you look at the total picture of what multi-boxing can do. Ultimately, like we talked about, I think multi-boxing is a net positive for the community in terms of quality of life. Consumables, the average player's impact on the economy now is much higher, but it isn't without its downsides, and we'll see how this impacts Shadowlands in the weeks to come. Let me know in the comments what you think about this change. Are you one of the people on Reddit that is like partying right now? Or are you somebody that was a multi-boxer that's just like, I bought 10 copies of Shadowlands, but I guess it doesn't matter. Let me know in the comments below, or if you want to talk about it in real time, come hang out with me on my Twitch page. We have a link to that down in the description as below. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and I'm going to be going pretty hard for Shadowlands. So if you want to join the party there, come over and hang out. Otherwise, if you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps other people find the channel, and I would greatly appreciate it if you could help me do that. That would be fantastic. But otherwise, in the meantime, happy gaming.